Hello and welcome to the podcast. This is a new
everybody.
podcast.
It might have been like demon possessed. It was a fairly large, mutated looking chicken.
We were born in the north, but we grew up in the south.
We learned all of our words from Pennsylvania.
And people are, that's toboggan. That little toboggan
Not
there.
a toboggan. A toboggan is a sled. Okay.
0.3 inches, baby.
Dude, I can't take it.
Welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. We got a big guest.
Wait, before we do that,
Okay.
I feel like we should talk about me not being in the midnight special that just happened.
Oh yeah, that was.
I did
bad before
edit
this.
it. And
Yeah.
Jamark thinks I'm not coming. I'm leaving because I'm not feeling it.
No, you just had work things. You're real busy with
Yes.
work outside of the podcast, so
Yeah.
you just didn't have time. I mean, it was,
It's kind of a crazy week for me.
yep. So, do you have any other thoughts about it?
Well, I wanted to say that next week
Mm-hmm.
we definitely will have Greater Remembering microfilm that we're going to feature on this podcast.
Yeah.
Next week is going to be, right? That works in the schedule, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not the midnight special coming up. The next video formed podcast.
It's not like I don't want to be pretentious and call it a short film.
yeah.
Pretentious?
A short skit. Let's say skit.
Yeah, it's more like a skit film, like a sketch, microfilm kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Joshua filmed it ourselves and we acted in it, and it's
Yep.
a comedy.
Greater Remembering.
We did accents that really suck.
Is
but
it finished at this point?
It's finished at this point. There's literally 2 tiny tweaks I have to make.
Okay,
to it.
so it's going to come out, I'm assuming, before the podcast airs.
No,
The film itself, and then
it'll
we'll
come out.
react to it.
We'll put it on Wiseworks Entertainment YouTube channel
Yeah.
by itself the day after the podcast. I want the podcast to be where it gets featured first.
Okay, that works.
Because I think incorporating our short films with this podcast is a good idea.
Yeah, I like that. So yes, come back next week for the short skit, The Greater Remembering. It's a little chuckle, a tee-hee.
It's supposed to
skit.
come out a few weeks ago, but I had to make a few adjustments, and then things got a little busy, and so I'm just now finishing it.
That skit is a fun ride. It's got some laughs, it's got some goofs, it's some gaffes.
At least it made us
some
laugh.
Excitement, it's got swords, it's got monsters, it's got tears, it's got laughter. Right? It's got all those things in it.
I'm choking on my coffee. Yes.
It's got big rocks. It's got...
Don't give everything away.
Okay.
Greater Remembering. You will see it here next week, so please watch next week's podcast. It'll be a good time, and we're just going to talk about the process of that and try to reflect a little bit on maybe some things with that Pennsylvania trip that we didn't talk about in any of the other podcasts.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
And we'll just talk about how we made it and stuff. That'll be the whole podcast, and after we show it.
Yeah.
So it's a good idea.
But this episode
Is really awesome too.
It's a really awesome episode. We got a really good guest for you coming on in a few minutes.
We already did the interview
recorded
with him.
it, but he's going to be on in a few minutes. We had a Zoom call with him because he lives over in California.
L.A., Hollywood.
LA, yes. I don't want to give too much away, but
He's an indie film director.
Who has a company.
And business owner, yeah.
A business owner, and his business is...
Indie Film Hustle.
Indie Film Hustle, yes. He has written a couple books that he introduced on the podcast. He has directed, wrote scripts. He has done he's edited. He's been editor for a while. He's been doing basically everything involving film and media.
Yeah. He's done a lot of stuff, and he talks about some of those things, but I gotta say, this guy is such a nice guy.
He's a nice guy, and he can talk really nice.
But honestly, he has a lot of experience, and he's done a lot of things to grow an audience for himself and start his business. And I just reached out to him because I heard him tell his backstory on one of his YouTube videos, and I just got the email that's on YouTube and sent a request that said, hey, this doesn't usually work. But if you're interested in, if you would be interested in it, we'd love to have a conversation with you on our podcast. They wrote back like pretty much right away and said,
What did they say?
they said he would love to.
Yeah.
And so he just did. And we just scheduled it and got it done.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
That was really nice, and I thank you, because he might watch this, he might not. I don't know if he's time, but something, and I don't want to get into it, give away what he talked about, but something he talked about in the episode that I wanted to just bring up. He talked about how filmmakers are giving away, like, they're not valuing themselves to the extent that they used to be with, like, editing stuff and getting paid what they're worth.
Yeah. Because
it's the field is so saturated with editors now, and he brought up this topic of editors being paid like $10 an hour when he used to get paid $60 an hour.
Yeah.
An hour to edit something,
because editing was an actual skill, and not everyone
it's
had
still a
access
skill.
To it. But it was like a really
it's so
anomaly
saturated
skill.
and people want to do it now.
Yeah, which is, it's pretty crazy. Like, I do editing. I don't make that much money.
Yeah,
not even close. But I do editing and video work for the company I do. Not to say that they don't pay the going rates, but I'm just saying, like, he's true when he says the going rates of editors and videographers is much lower these days.
Well, that's why I brought it up, because I used to work for, not to throw any shade at anybody, it was a good experience. I'll say that first. It was a good experience working for this company. I learned a lot.
But you don't work for them anymore.
I don't work for them anymore. But I got paid $10 an hour to edit. And it was a third shift job, so I got up in the middle of the night to edit for $10 an hour.
Yeah.
Was it worth it?
Maybe at that time.
Pay-wise, no. Experience-wise, yes. It was a good experience.
Well, then there's a trade-off.
But it wasn't a job that I would keep for years because of the pay.
Yeah.
It was good that I got out of it.
And he mentioned this towards the end of the interview. He literally did, that's on branding for him. He said, when you're young, you definitely just, like, you work hard and you hustle and you do things for free and you work for free. And that's how you learn. That's how you grow. That's how you meet people. And that's how you get things on your resume and get experience. And it's important.
Yeah. So do you want to just go ahead and get into it, and then we'll give an end recap at the end of it?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So here is our interview with
Alex Ferrari.
We're both pretty young. We've only done a few projects, so we really want to learn from you, and just anybody else who watches this can also learn from you as well.
Sounds good. My name is Alex Ferrari. I am the founder of Indie Film Hustle. I've been in the business for about 25 years now. I've got a lot of shrapnel that I've collected over the years in this business. I started off in post-production, being an editor, colorist, online editor, post supervisor, VFX supervisor, and a billion other things I've done. And then, of course, as a director, when I started directing commercials and music videos about 20 odd years ago. And
sorry about that. We live right next to a military base. So
no worries.
There's some pretty big planes that fly over top of us.
No worries. And I launched Indie Film Hustle about 5 years ago, a little bit over 5 years ago, and wanted to create a resource for filmmakers to teach them the realities of the business, as brutal as those realities might be sometimes, but to give them hope and arm them with the knowledge, because the knowledge is the only thing that is the only weapon that really matters in the continuous fight to bring our filmmaking dreams to life.
That's really cool. You said you did a lot of color, like, starting out. Did you did you learn color grading and color correcting in school, or was that something?
No.
No. Yeah.
This is how old I am. When I went to school, my post-production teacher told me that a computer would never, ever produce broadcast quality video. And that was standard def. It wasn't even HD. HD wasn't even a wink yet.
Yeah.
So I didn't even learn nonlinear editing until I got out of school. I learned the Avid in 96, 97,
Okay.
around there is when I learned at the Avid. So color, I kind of fell into color in 2005 because I directed my first big short film.
Yeah.
And I realized, and again, don't forget, in those times, there was just no information about filmmaking online or anywhere. So I didn't really know how to color grade.
Yeah.
The concept of color grading wasn't a thing, but I knew instinctively, like, you know what? I need to make this thing look cool.
Yeah.
And I color graded in Final Cut Pro, I'm going to say 4.
Okay. Yeah.
Using filters. Like I got a couple of filter packages from that were flying around the internet, and I bought them and layered like 5 or 6. Like, it was a really bad way of color grading.
Yeah.
And my monitor was a Sony like Trinitron
Yeah.
TV, not calibrated, nothing. It was just like a normal television.
Yeah.
And I color graded my entire movie that way. And afterwards, everybody that saw the film and all the press and stuff that I got out of it, is like, how'd you get that look off of a mini DV camera? And I'm like, I don't know. They're like, can you do it for my movie? I'm like, all right, sure. And then I started post-production company wrapped around servicing independent filmmakers. And I just learned how to color grade along the way, because when I was starting out, you could be an editor and make a living.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I used to pull $50 to $60 an hour.
Wow.
As an editor.
Yeah.
Just editing corporate, commercials, music videos, not even features or anything. I got into features later. And I'd be hard pressed to find an editor now that makes $50, $60 an hour.
Yeah.
It's a tough, and that's sad. But the problem is that, you know, all this great technology opened up the market for everybody to come in. So it gave people opportunities to be in this business that didn't have it before. But the same thing that was great about it was the bad thing about it. So the good thing is everybody has access. Bad thing is everybody's got access.
Yeah.
So now you know, if I was just an editor right now, I'd be competing against young bucks like yourselves.
Yeah.
You know, and you'll go up like, hey, I'll do this for $10 an hour. I don't care.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, but I've been doing this 20 years. And the client's like, I don't care. I just want to. So it's a losing proposition to be just one thing. So I started adding more tools in my toolbox. So I became a colorist. Then I became an online editor, which is a different skill set. Then I became a post supervisor. Then I became a VFX supervisor, and then started to add all of those things together. So when, let's say you were going to bid again, I'm going to pick on you, but let's say they were going to go to you and they're like, hey, I got this feature. And they're like, well, I'll edit it for $5,000. And then which is horrible, by the way, don't ever, that's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to edit it for $5,000, and then they would come to me, they're like, hey man, I'll color grade it. I'll edit it. I'll post supervise it. I'll even VFX that whole damn thing for you for $5,000. And all of a sudden you're gone. You're out of and that's what I did a lot. That's why my IMDb page is as long as it is, because I was able to outbid everybody else because of the skills that I was able to bring to the table. So I packaged it all together in order to make a living. And I think nowadays, as a filmmaker, if you do not have 20 skills in your toolbox, 20 tools in your toolbox, you're not going to eat.
Yeah.
You're just not going to eat. It's just, I was talking to a producer the other day about it, is you have to be so much better than I was when I started out, because the competition is fierce. The market is different. Everybody needs content, but everybody's making content. So it's, if you want to like work as a freelancer or a company providing services for film, you got to have 1,000 things and offer 1,000 different things.
And freelancing seems to be kind of rough right now. I don't know. You're in LA, right?
I'm in LA, but I closed down my post house about 2 years ago because I decided to start doing Indie Film Hustle full time.
Yeah.
So and writing and talking and do all the things I do. So before then, I was freelancing. I had my own post production company that I launched in my extra bedroom in my apartment in North Hollywood, where I first got here.
Yeah.
And then built it from there. But before I got to LA, I was in Florida for 20 years, but probably at least 10 to 15 years of my career was in Florida.
Okay.
And I made a living. I mean, I made a really good living. I was pulling in 6 figures early, man. I was 22. I was pulling in like 6 figures. That's insane.
Yeah, that is crazy.
But it was a different time. It was a different. I was living at home. And I was living at home.
You're just saving all kinds of money. You're spending it on gear or something.
I was spending it like a stupid idiot. I was throwing money away like it was nobody's business.
Yeah.
But that's what I did. But nowadays it's almost impossible to do that without. I mean, I can't even comprehend it now. You've got to do so many different things now in order just to eat. Honestly, just to eat. So you can either go the service route of being of service and selling to your services to a company, to a client, or things like that, or you go into I'm going to be a filmmaker and create content and then make money off of that. Or the better of the two is combine the two.
Yeah.
So whenever you're not working, you're creating content, you're creating products that can generate revenue streams for yourself. Online, like you guys are doing with your YouTube channel. I'm not sure if you're monetizing yet or not, but eventually money will start coming in, or a decent amount of money comes in to the point where hopefully you could just do this. And just make your own projects. And that's the goal. Yeah.
And I mean, I want to talk about this in just a few minutes, but I did watch your film or your video that you made on your channel about why indie filmmakers don't make money.
The one I just released last week.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You had some crazy insights, and the thing I kind of knew in my head, some of the things you were saying, but the way you presented it, it really kind of like sunk in. I think you just taking it slow and explaining it was really helpful.
Appreciate that.
And even the way you explained how the market changes so quick, But
yeah, I had a question that I was thinking of. Something for me being a filmmaker, and I know I'm pretty young, so I haven't been like with VHS as much, but I watched a video where you talked about when you were younger, you used to collect like VHS and stuff because you loved it. Something I've always been so passionate about is things like Netflix. People go and binge a show and they watch it one time because they binge it, but they're not invested in that show as much. So I love to go out and buy a copy of a film and invest in it. I feel like me buying a copy is helping the creator or the people who created that film. And that, I think, is investing a little bit for me as a viewer rather than just binging a show. And I feel like, do you think Netflix is changing how creators make films because of that?
Oh, absolutely. Netflix completely upended the entire industry.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about, if Disney just came out with an article. I just read an article 2 days ago. Disney is now reorganizing their company to focus on streaming.
Yeah. Wow.
That is a huge statement, considering Disney is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest movie studio. And I'd argue it's even a studio anymore. It's much more than that. But that they're now just saying, you know what, this theatrical thing, this old model of doing business is not the way to go. Absolutely. Netflix has changed the entire game. I've been talking about this concept of devaluation of content. So if you want to know where the film business is going, you've just got to look at the music industry, where which I stated, which is, a song used to cost $18, that was the cost of an album. That was the only way you could get the song. Or you waited on the radio with a tape player. I know. And you wait for that radio to play the song, and then you hit the radio and you pray that the DJ doesn't mess it up. That was the way you used to get a song. But then it went down to singles. Then it went down because MP3 showed up and Napster showed up, and then it went on iTunes for 99 cents. And then now the streaming platforms have made it literally fractions of a penny. So the creator, the value of the song is almost worthless. It's essentially worthless. There's no value to the song anymore. So there's the same thing going on with movies. There is no value in the movie anymore, in the creation of a film anymore, because, if you're on Netflix, you're paying whatever, $12, $15, whatever the cost is.
And you have so much content.
And you've got everything. So what incentivizes me to pay you $3 to rent your movie, or $6 to rent your movie? It's got to be something pretty special. It's got to be something I'm really connected to, or I got to be a star that I really like, or a niche that I really like, to invest that. So it has become almost impossible for a movie to recoup its investment now. And that was pre-COVID. Now it's literally, so difficult, if not impossible, to recoup money in the old model because the old filmmakers are still making their movies like it's 1997, and it's those days are so gone. And I'm literally in the thick of it. I'm talking to distributors. I'm talking to people in the business who are doing sales, all of that every day. And I'm hearing it and I'm seeing it. I'm talking to filmmakers and I'm like, what's the deal you got? You had who in your movie and they offered you what? And like, and you haven't made what? Like, it's insane. Where a film, like there's a $400,000 horror movie with some horror actors in it. Like, people that were famous in the horror movies, right?
Yeah.
In 2010, that makes $1 million. Between overseas, DVD, all that, that's going to make $1 million. It's $600,000-$700,000 comfortably. It'll make now $30,000 if you're lucky.
Yeah. That's crazy.
50 grand. And that's like you've like hit the jackpot kind of scenario because that's just the marketplace now. So the cost is the value of the property, the value of the content has gone down so much that it's almost impossible for filmmakers to make their money back. So that's why I wrote my book. And that's why I talk so many ways of trying to make money outside of the traditional systems, especially for indie films.
Yeah. What's the name of your book?
The name of my book is The Rise of the Filmtrepreneur, How to Turn Your Independent Film into a Money-Making Business.
Awesome.
And that book I wrote, it became a bestseller within, I think, 24 hours. It was #1 on Amazon when I released it.
That's awesome.
And it's basically a blueprint on how to build a business around your film or content. Yeah. It could be around series. It could be around movies. It could be around any sort of content. And I mean, even a YouTube channel, like the concepts in the book, you can lay into any sort of content, but you got to follow the steps. And then I literally leave in every single chapter multiple case studies of other filmmakers who are killing it. Doing a lot of the stuff that they're doing, and you don't have to do all of it. You could just do maybe a section here and a section there, and you could be extremely successful with it. And I have examples of how I use it on a daily basis as well. So it is, I feel, the future. I don't think there's a future in generating revenue from your film because of the exploitation of the film.
Yeah.
And if you study the big boys, which I'm truly a student of the industry and I study everything. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm not going to study the studios. I'm an indie guy. I'm like, well, you got to see where that thing's going. If you look at Disney stopped being a studio probably 2-3 decades ago. Like, because if you think about it, a movie studio's definition is the product I produce is a movie, right? And then how do I make money with that movie? Well, I send it to theaters. So I'm making money off the exploitation or the access to the content. So that's just changed over time. So it's going to be a theatrical. Then it went to home video, then cable. Then it went to home video. Then it went to DVD. Then it went to Blu-ray. And then this upstart streaming thing called Netflix showed up and completely changed the game. And then now all of a sudden, now that has to be the way. It took Disney 10 years to release Disney Plus.
Yeah.
A decade for Disney Plus. HBO Max, Peacock, over a decade, all of them to move. And while Netflix has this head start. And they tried with Hulu a little bit, but that was kind of like a mishmash. And it's now come into its own as well because Disney now owns it. But I actually went to the corporate filings of Disney in 2019. And the biggest thing that they make money on is, and this is all pre-COVID, so the game has changed a bit, but it was theme parks and resorts. That was number one, 30%. By the way, they made $19 billion revenue. $19 billion revenue.
Gosh.
So I think it was 19. Oh no, I'm sorry, 70 billion. I apologize. It was I was a little off there. 70 billion. I was like, that's a low number. No, it's 70 billion.
For Disney, it's a low number.
Yeah, it's a low. I mean, I only pull in 1 or 2 billion a year personally, but that's just me. I mean, who can't? I mean, who can't live on $1 billion? I mean, seriously. So it's about 70 billion. So about 30%, 25 to 30% is theme parks and resorts. Then it's licensing. Like cable networks and licensing. So the ESPN, Disney Plus, Disney Channel, that's another like 50 and 20%. Third on the list is box office, is revenue from the exploitation. And then fourth is licensing, meaning like t-shirts, hats, all of that kind of stuff. But you have to take in consideration that the number of the theme parks and the resorts, a big part of that revenue is hats, t-shirts, merchandise that they're selling.
Yeah.
So if you combine them, 15% of Disney's income, 15 to 17% of Disney's income is theatrical or revenue generated by the exploitation of their films. That's it.
Wow.
That's it. They've built a business. They're the model for the filmtrepreneur method at a much larger scale. So I just took what they did and brought it down to the independent level, where instead of 70 billion, you might be able to pull in 100,000 a year, 50,000 a year, 150,000 a year, and start building that way. So I just brought it down to a scale and using tools and examples that you literally can use today by doing that. But the reason why all these other studios are having so many problems. So Disney's number one. Then you've got, because they're extremely diversified, Warner Brothers and Universal are probably the other two companies, other two studios that will survive COVID. But the other the other four studios that I think will either go under. I don't think any of them will go under because someone will buy them because they all have libraries. They're either going to be purchased or acquired. Sony, Paramount, Lionsgate, and MGM. All of them have massive libraries.
Yeah.
And there's 4 or 5 big cash flush guys sitting on the sideline. Amazon, Facebook, Google, and Apple. With so much cash. Do you understand that Apple has so much cash they could buy Disney?
Yeah.
Cash. Cash.
Yeah.
So
That's
these guys are
crazy.
sitting, waiting. They're just waiting. And I promise you that Amazon or I think probably Amazon is going to probably be the one to do it. It's going to buy a theatrical chain. They're going to buy AMC or they're going to buy Regal, because that business model, the theatrical business model, has been going down for forever. If it wasn't for, you pull Marvel out of the last 10 years and the box office would be nothing.
It's just a straight line down, or just a gradual line.
So Marvel is basically, Disney itself has been holding up the theatrical business. But the business model, and you can stop me at any time, by the way. I'm just
you're
talking about
good.
business.
You're good.
If you look at the theatrical model is I'm gonna show your movie, Disney, and I'm gonna take 50% of your box office opening weekend, because that's our deal. And then I'm gonna make the majority of my money selling ridiculously priced popcorn and soda and candy and other things like that, right? Because they're very high profit, and that's their focus. Their focus is to sell condoms. That's where they make the money. That's where theaters make their money, and that's the business model. Well, if an Amazon buys it, that model changes, because Amazon's going to play movies that they own. I don't know if you know, they just bought Coming to America 2. Did you hear that?
No, I didn't hear that.
Amazon just bought Coming to America 2. You know Coming to America, right?
Yes.
The Eddie Murphy movie. Yeah. They made a sequel.
Oh.
Yeah. They paid $125 million for it.
When did they make a sequel?
Oh, they paid a while ago.
I missed it.
Yeah. While Bad Boys 2 was going on, I think they were shooting it around the same time. Bad Boys, whatever the last Bad Boys was. And it's just been sitting there waiting, and they were like, how are we going to release it, this and that? Amazon's like, we'll give you $125 million. That's how they roll. So they're buying it. So a movie like that, if they had a theatrical space and it wasn't a COVID scenario, once COVID lifts, the theaters will be back. But now the business model is different. Now 100% of the ticket is yours. And now they're going to have stores inside of every theater selling all sorts of things. Gear. Think about it. If you have the Coming America posters, movie memorabilia, all that kind of stuff. Disney has done it already with the. You've never been to LA? Have you been to LA?
Not LA, just San Francisco.
So if you've ever been to LA, when you come to LA, you're going to go to Hollywood because everyone does it, and you're going to go, oh, this is crap, and you're going to go, why is this? It looks horrible. It is. But on Hollywood Boulevard, there is El Capitan, which is a kind of historic theater. Disney owns that. When you walk into it, it's an experience to watch a Disney movie there, and they only play Disney movies there. So they have characters out. Right next to it, Disney Store, incorporated into the theater. So now you coming in and paying $15, $20 for a theater for the ticket, that's just starting. By the time they're done with you, you're walking out with $150. Do you see the difference in business models?
Yes.
That makes sense for an Amazon or a Disney to buy a theater chain like that, because now it becomes an experience. Now it becomes a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
Where with the theaters are now, it's a combative relationship. I still say it's a combative relationship. It's been saying that forever. You're charging me how much? Why shouldn't I just sneak in my popcorn? I mean, seriously, why shouldn't I do that? Like, that's ridiculous. And that's the way the world is changing. This is my looking in the tea leaves kind of scenario.
Yeah.
I'm not the first to say some of this stuff, but I think that it is where everything is going to go. But as independent filmmakers, we're such an insignificant part of the business. They don't care about, it's not the 90s anymore, so they don't care about us. The studios don't care about us. The distributors, honestly, they don't care about the $50,000. Not real distributors, not non-predatory distributors. They don't care about the $50,000 movie unless it's something big, but generally speaking, not. So us as independent filmmakers, we've got to take control of our own stuff and make our own, generate our own money, build out our own distribution platforms. We just got to take control of everything. And in my book, I kind of lay out a lot of ways that a filmmaker can do that. And again, it's not about becoming a millionaire. It's not about living that, entourage life, where, it's got the house in the hills and bubbly everywhere, all the kind of trappings of Hollywood success.
Yeah.
It's about building a career. It's about building a business. And if I could tell you right now that you're going to generate $50,000 a year by just creating movies and running a business around what you do, would you be happy?
I think I would.
Right. Yeah. And it depends on where you live. If you're in LA, they're like,
it's probably not that much.
Not that much. So it all depends on what you need to put a roof over your head, support your family, support yourself, and be happy. It's not about, if I could replace your day job with you becoming a content creator or educator or business owner, doing what you love to do as opposed to running over to Starbucks. There's anything wrong with working at Starbucks, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Working at some sort of fast food joint, wouldn't that be the dream?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, just doing what you love is a dream,
Right. And if you could get paid just enough to survive and be comfortable wherever you live in the world, well, why wouldn't you do that? And that's the whole method around Filmtrepreneur, is to build yourself a business, a sustainable business that's generating revenue for you day in, day out, while you sleep, and you can build off that. So you're young. So let's say you do one movie or one series, and maybe you do 1 or 2 a year. In 3 or 4 years, you got 4, 5, 6, 10 properties. Generating, you have 10 businesses generating revenue for yourself. And then hopefully they're feeding off of each other. So you've created an ecosystem. And then all of a sudden, what used to be $50,000 has turned into $250,000. And all of a sudden it's turned into $500,000 a year. And about a decade in, you're like, I'm making $500,000 a year doing what I love to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a quick fix. It's about building something. Sustainable and allowing yourself to do what you love, where a lot of filmmakers just focus on the home run. I'm all about the singles. I'm all about the singles, getting up the bat, hitting those constant singles all the time. Pete Rose is the record holder for singles, not for home runs. Because he was consistently able to produce. If you're just consistently able to produce those singles, sometimes you get a double, maybe even a triple, hell, maybe once a home run. But if you're always going up the bat, only thinking about the home run, you'll never make it. You'll strike out every time. Yeah.
I'm curious. You said a minute ago, the world's changing, and I've thought about this a long time, because when I was a teenager, I knew I wanted to do filmmaking, didn't know exactly how to go about it. Still trying to figure it out, but I've had a lot more direction than I did when I was a teenager. Film school, and even just teaching yourself. I know you're providing resources. You're almost like a modern day film school, what you've done. But you also went to film school, And so I'm curious, what's your opinion of people going to film school? Because I work with some people that went to film school, and none of them are like super glad they did. but some of them are just kind of neutral and they don't really care. I've never heard like an amazing film school experience testimony. You know what I mean?
So, all right. So I love talking about this because it's one of my pet peeves in life. I went to film school in 1995.
Mhm.
In 1995, there was no information about how to make films outside of going to film school. There was, other than books that you could buy or see at the library, and the occasional Star Wars documentary about how they made it, and Raiders of the Lost Ark documentary that they saw, and maybe some occasional DVD extras, like Robert Rodriguez's
Or commentary.
or commentaries. It was kind of like that was DVDs and the Criterion Collection and all that kind of stuff. That was early self-education.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't structured though. It was very kind of all over the place. So it wasn't a structured situation.
A lot of terminology you don't understand at that age too.
Right. I mean, you're hearing Martin Scorsese talk about how he made Raging Bull on a Criterion Collection Laserdisc, because that's how old I am. And you're going, yeah, that's great, Marty. I love it. Thank you. But like, what's that? What's that lens? What are you talking about? So it wasn't. It was great, but it was the beginning of it. So I had no other choice but to go to film school. My film school cost $18,000.
Wow.
Okay, that's what my film school cost. I went to Full Sail in Orlando. My same education costs like $70,000 or $80,000 now.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't do that, because if you're listening, please listen very carefully. If you're going to go to a film school and charge up a stupid amount of student debt to go to get an education, where you're spending $50,000 to $80,000 to even $100,000 in student debt that you cannot afford. If you can afford, if your parents can write a check, dude, go to film school. It's so much fun. It's fun. It's great. Why not? You meet some people, you play with gear, all that kind of stuff. But if you've actually got to pay this back, I would absolutely not go to film school. And there's other options, and I'll give them to you in a second. You have to look at it as a business transaction. What is your ROI? Return on investment. If I pay $50,000, how long will it take me to get that money back into my pocket and also pay this loan back, which is a loan that you can never get rid of? It's stuck to you for life, thanks to the government. Okay? So you're stuck with it, period. So you have to ask yourself, how long is it going to take me? Be honest. How long is it going to take me to generate enough money to pay back a $50,000 to $70,000 student debt? The realities are, in today's world, that it's going to take you at minimum 5 to 10 years to start truly making real money if you're going to go into the workforce, meaning like freelancing, things like that. All depends on the different circumstances where you are, what kind of market there is, all that kind of stuff. If you were going to go in there, because I was lucky. It took me a few years before I paid my loan off, probably in 3 or 4 years, okay, because I was doing well, but it was a different time. So you have to ask yourself, well, how long is it going to take me to get a job? How long is it going to take me to actually start making some real money? And then, so you're looking at a decade, and that's a best case scenario.
Yeah, that's if you're real disciplined and you find a good opportunity.
If you're solid, like you're working hard, and and so that's best case scenario. There's no ROI in that, because the same amount, I'm gonna quote Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting.
Okay.
One day you're gonna wake up and you're gonna realize that you spent $150,000 on an education that you could have had for $5 in late fees at the library. It's true, because now you've got resources like mine, like what you guys are doing, YouTube, online courses, books. There's so many virtual resources. That's one avenue you can go down, is virtual resources. You will learn more from being on a set working for free for 2 months than you will from a year at film school.
Yeah.
You just will. So I would rather just work on a set, or hell, shoot my own stuff and learn as I go. Because then maybe I have a product or something I can sell afterwards, or I have a calling card I can use and things like that. If you've got $20,000 burning a hole in your pocket to go to film school, well, hell, figure a way out to how to invest that into content or projects or something that you can do to actually move your career forward in a faster way.
Yeah.
I'm not against film school as a concept. I'm against film school as a cost, as an ROI. If you can go to your local community college, which a lot of them offer media courses, film classes, and you're talking about a few $100s for a class, $500, $700 to take a semester, do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely do that, because then you're going to be able to play with gear and do all that stuff, but at a much more cost-effective manner. There's ROI there.
Yeah.
There's a return on investment there. Going to NYU, USC, AFI, Full Sail, any of these big giant, New York Film Academy, any of these guys that charge just obscene amounts of money, it doesn't make sense. I've spoken at almost all of those colleges, and I've talked to students, that have left, alma mater, people that have come out of there, and I hear the same thing. If you go to USC, the most valuable thing you'll get is the connections you'll make with your classmates. Because if you're in the USC Film School, chances are something's going to happen to that. They're probably going to be plugged in somewhere, and those people are going to be able to help you along your career. There's a value in that. Is it worth $80,000 to $120,000? No, but if you can get in there somehow, if you can get scholarships, you get great. Same thing for NYU. Not as much. USC is a much more industry tapped in college. AFI, great program. Full Sail, great. They're going to teach you a lot of stuff, but you just got to look at it as ROI. Can you learn this stuff on your own? Can you learn from doing? Can you learn from self-educating yourself through podcasts, through YouTube channels, through paying online courses? Do you
through
know
Indie Film Hustle,
Yeah, through Indie Film Hustle. Look, if you go out, and you can go right now and spend $3,000 to $4,000 on online courses from real people.
Yeah.
To educate you. Just on Masterclass alone, you can get Spike Lee, Ron Howard, Samuel Jackson, Aaron Sorkin. And by the way, they're not the greatest things in the world, but for someone who doesn't know anything, oh man, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
And for $180, you get all of them for a year.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
You go to Indie Film Hustle TV, which is my streaming platform. I've got 2,700 videos and lessons on every part of the business.
Yeah.
For $99 a year.
That's awesome.
You could just sit there
wonderful.
And you could watch all of it. Then if you want to go to higher end stuff, my courses range from $100 to $700. Would it make sense to just hire someone like me or other professionals in business as a coach? Spend $2,000 and have them coach you through your first short film and go, hey man, Joe, don't do that, man, because you're going to need this, 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 and this. And I just saved you probably thousands of dollars and probably weeks, if not months of your time.
Yeah.
Do you see where there's ROI there? You have to look at everything as a return on investment and a return on time. ROT and ROI. It's extremely, extremely important. Hell, you'll learn a lot just by buying a $10 book. $100 book. Like if you read Filmtrepreneur, Jesus Christ, you're going to be so hard ahead of the game that I was when I walked into film school. So there's so many more options. So I would absolutely not go to film school unless you can afford it, or unless you could do it at a cost affordable way, like a community college or even workshops. Even paying for $500 workshop here or there, being taught over a weekend, you'll learn so much more than spending $50,000. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make any sense. Our business is not a business that you rake in the money, no matter what Hollywood tells you. It is not a business that you get rich at. It is not. It is not. But they show you the guys who get rich. That's what they do, because they want kids like you to keep coming into the business so they can take advantage of you, so they can abuse you. So, and like perfect example, that earlier conversation we had about you editing the movie for $1,000, and I was going to charge $5,000. You're like, I'm not just happy. I'll do it for $1,000. Right. They're going to beat the living hell out of you for that $1,000. I won't do something like that because I've already been beaten up. You see what I mean? And that's what they need. They want fresh blood in the system, or else the system crashes. And that is the kind of false narrative that Hollywood has been putting out since the beginning of time. And the biggest culprit, I think, is the Robert Rodriguez El Mariachi myth, which By the way, I'm a huge Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah.
I love Robert Rodriguez. I love El Mariachi. It's not his fault, but that mythical lottery ticket story, dude, that happened 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's 30 years ago. It was 91 when Mariachi showed up. I was right in the middle of it when it showed up. You know, his book, Rebel Without a Crew, that came out around the same time.
Yeah.
And people are still talking about the $7,000 action movie that he made. And that's just not reality anymore.
Yeah.
It wasn't reality then. He was a lottery ticket for God's sakes.
Yeah.
So don't look at, you can't look at any business at its outliers. You have to look at everybody else. Like I always say, I wrote it in the book, but every week somewhere in the country, someone wins the lottery.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere, someone wins the lottery. And what do? They bring up the winner, and that's the guy or gal who gets shown, and they get the check, and they do big hoopla, and they videotape it, and they do interviews with that person. They didn't show the millions of people who lost that week, but they showed the one that won.
Yeah.
That's the way you keep buying tickets, because in your mind you go, well, that could be me. And that could be attitude is what kills most filmmaking careers.
Yeah.
And if you're able to understand that, like, no, I gotta walk into this business like a craftsman, like a business person, and start approaching my career like a business, because if I don't, I'll get run over.
So I wanted to ask you, because I've heard you mention a few times, you're a black magic guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What kind of black magic cameras do you have, or do you like working with these days?
Well, I shot my last feature on the Blackmagic Pocket Camera 1080p.
Yeah.
I shot my entire movie on it, and it was wonderful. I love that camera.
Was that the Meg film?
No, that was on the corner of Ego and Desire.
Okay, gotcha.
My Meg I shot on the original 2.5K cinema camera, which is one I had. I sold that one. I had that. And then I have a 4.6K.
Okay.
Ursa. That's it. It's what I need.
Yeah.
Sure, I would love the 12K, but
Yeah.
I'm not rolling like that right now. I don't need it. I'm not a really heavy gear guy, because if you get excited about one piece of gear, then a week later another piece of gear comes out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of promotion. But I think by far the best bang for your buck a filmmaker could get is with Blackmagic. There's just no question in my mind.
Yeah. Have you done any of your films with like the red camera, and if you did,
Sure.
like, what was your experience with it? You know, like.
Love red. I mean, I was a big red guy when it first came out. I was one of the first guys in LA to understand the workflow of red. So
Really?
I started working like crazy, because I was getting projects. I mean, I was literally I was at the place where I walk into a post house with a red hard drive, and they're like, "What's that?" Like, they had no idea it was that early on in the process here in LA. And I was able to figure out this convoluted workflow to make it work, because the post workflow was horrible in that camera when it came out. And I was able to figure it out. And because of that, I was working nonstop. So I loved red. I thought red was it's still a great camera. Between red, I've shot with Alexa, and I've shot with Ursa. And they're all great cameras.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is it's just about ROI.
Yeah.
It's about return on it's about return on investment. So I shot an Alexa, which is a $70,000 or $80,000, $100,000 camera, something like that. And I shot it against an Ursa, which was a $4,500, something like that. $5,000
Yeah,
I think that the first one, I think the latest one is like, I don't know, around $6,000 or something.
Yeah, but that's a 12K. And then there's the 6K, and then there's the 4K. So I had the 4.6K, not the first Ursa. It's just the first Ursa was horrible.
I shot a film on the first Ursa.
With that big giant like iPad thing that popped out, was horrible.
Yeah.
The sensor wasn't good. I've talked to the Blackmagic guys, and they're like, "Yeah, we're sorry about that." The sensor had problems. It was just they didn't lock it in. But the 4.6K is solid. It's a solid camera. So I shot them both, and the red, you can tell it's a red movie within a second of seeing it, because it's so crisp, it's so clean, and it leaves nothing to the imagination. Nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't soften anything. You really got to use proper lenses to really soften that image. Then the Alexa's a beautifully soft film-like image.
Yeah.
It's a gorgeous film-like image. It really is. Then the Blackmagic, is also a very beautiful filmic image, very soft edges as well. So I did a test. I shot the Ursa down the middle, meaning that I it's literally exposed right down the middle, and then I exposed the Alexa down the middle. And I promise you, if I showed you post shots, you wouldn't tell the difference.
Yeah.
If they both lit properly, couldn't tell the difference. You just couldn't. Same lenses, same everything, couldn't tell the difference. So then you're going, well, why should I spend $100,000? What's the difference between the $100,000 and that? Well, the difference is as soon as you start pulling it, either overexposing or underexposing, the black magic will fall apart faster.
Yeah.
Whereas the Alexa's range, it holds and holds.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you really shouldn't be shooting camera like that. You got to expose it properly. That's, photography 101.
Yeah.
So for an independent filmmaker, I think there's no camera out there. The Ursa is one option, but now they got the pocket camera, which is 6K.
I've been wanting this 6K real bad.
It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous scenario what you're able to do now with these cameras. So, without question, and let's not even talk about the workflow, because now you can work in Blackmagic and then just bring it into DaVinci Resolve, which is where I do all my posts now, and it all just works.
Yeah.
And there is no reconnecting. There's no, sending it back out to Premiere and reconnecting the files and doing offline and online. That's all gone.
Yeah.
All gone. It just stays inside your system. And DaVinci Resolve, you could literally do everything. I don't, but you could do the sound there. You could do visual effects there.
Yeah.
Everything there. It's stupid. And that's a free piece of software.
Yeah.
On top of that, you get a copy of it when you buy one of these cameras. So
yeah.
The Blackmagic, they actually have taken over a big market share because people just like, this just makes sense.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things in regards to branding. Like, I had producers talking to me like, oh, I need to shoot this on a red. I'm like, you don't know what the hell you don't go to a plumber and go, I need this brand of plunger. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, get the job done.
Yeah. I've had this theory that, especially like I kind of did this with myself and Joshua has as well. Getting started just to kind of like learn some lighting techniques and whatnot, just to get like a Canon DSLR and just shoot in a lower quality, like even something like 1280 by 720, and just try to make that look good. And that kind of teaches you how to work with an image almost better from outside sources with lighting and stuff before you even start caring about like 4K and 6K and stuff. What do you think about that mentality?
If I were you, I would just go get a pocket camera, get a 1080p, 1080p pocket camera, which you can buy online used for like $700. It's a Super 16 sensor, so it gives you that kind of like 1990s indie grain. Learn on that. That's I owned an Ursa and decided to shoot on that camera for my second phone.
Was that like workflow, or you just wanted to prove something? What was?
No, I didn't care about proving as much, though that was a nice aspect of things because no one's really shot features on that camera before. But I wanted the look. The look I couldn't get out of the Ursa. The Ursa's too good. Yeah. So I wanted that kind of Super 16 image. And I was able to get that out of that camera. That camera's image is gorgeous. And then, by the way, I had it projected at the Chinese Theater here in LA. So I bumped it up to 2K to do the DCP. Yeah. And I had never seen it projected. I was like, it looks good on my monitor at home, but I have no idea if it's going to project well. And I was having a big premiere that night. And when I came in early to see the image, and my mouth was on the floor, I was like, holy cow, that is gorgeous. It looked amazing, amazing. So there's no excuse, man. You can't get all caught up with the 4K. And by the way, I also went in on the 1080, so I reframed off the 1080. That's how good that camera is. Yeah. And I was able to reframe, not heavily, but I was still able to pop in and reframe shots and move things around a little bit in post off of that. But I also shot raw. So big gotta shoot raw. Shoot raw, because that's where you're gonna find your latitude to be able to help you and protect you when you get into trouble when you're shooting, which you will, especially with the lower budgets.
Yeah, I'm curious for anyone wanting to get into filmmaking, or even just get into any kind of commercial work, or just learn video production and they're interested in editing. What software do you think is kind of industry standard that is going to help them the most getting started if they're like learning editing?
So what's the end game? Is it to produce your own products or is it to work in the industry?
That's the thing. I think a lot of people, maybe to get into films, usually that's where people start. They're like, I want to make movies, and then they find their way, or they end up making movies, And so
to answer your question, then, if you want to do, like, you want to build your own production company, you want to build up your own thing, Resolve. Synergy Resolve is the only way to go.
Yeah.
If you want to work in television, you need Avid.
mhm.
Like, Avid is still, for whatever godforsaken reason, that pig of a software.
Yeah, I did it in school. I did not like it.
It's just just this big bloated kind of thing.
Yeah.
That the studios are just stuck with because their infrastructure set up that way, and it works. And I did a show where I did all the post on. It was a $7 million show for Hulu, and the editors were all like, I'm not editing on anything but Avid. It has to be this version of Avid. And it was like, and they were all union guys and stuff. I was just like, this is insane. And like they were literally using Macs from, I don't know, like fucking 10 years, like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Because that's the only software, like the only way the software could run.
Yeah.
So it's brutal. So if you want to get into television, you're going to have to learn Avid. Premiere is pretty much the standard for everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, Final Cut Pro X is a very powerful piece of software, but it's definitely not used in the industry that much.
Yeah.
Resolve has pretty much taken over where Final Cut was. Resolve has taken over because it's just so powerful, and everything comes in one box now with that one piece of software that it's insanity. So if and even then, still a lot of like production companies and other people are starting to use Resolve. So Resolve is definitely a tool set. You need a tool in your toolbox. But if
So you think Resolve's coming up? Because everyone that I've been around, we live here in Virginia Beach. Everyone I've been around and seen, everyone uses Premiere, and so I'm curious, because do you think Resolve is something that's up and coming, or is it like where you're at, it's already like the main thing?
It's just, again, if you want to look, I'm not taking anything away from Premiere. Premiere is a very powerful piece of software. But the thing I hate about Premiere is I got to pay the piper every month.
Yeah.
And that just annoys me. I'm old school. I'm like, if I buy a piece of software, I buy a pice of software, and that's the end of it, guys. And you give me some updates and let's move on.
Yeah.
But this whole kind of like, I got you on the hook, like, I got you. Like, he's like the dealer.
I got your numbers.
Yeah, Adobe's your dealer, and you got to go back every month just to.
Yeah.
And your entire business is. This is the thing I don't like it. If for whatever reason Adobe decides to change their deal, move things around, and your entire business is wrapped around that workflow, you're screwed. Your power, you've given all your power away to a corporation, and I promise you, a corporation doesn't care two craps about you.
Yeah.
Because Apple just destroyed Final Cut 7. And they didn't care. Why? Because they were selling iPhones. They didn't care. They bought a piece of software called Shake. I don't know if you remember Shake.
I haven't heard of that.
Shake was what they composited. It was the visual effects. It was like the biggest visual effects piece of software of its day. Like they did Lord of the Rings on that. Okay. So it was the thing. Apple bought it, killed it. A few years later, killed it. They don't care. So if you put your whole livelihood in a corporation's hand, let's say tomorrow they double your price. What are you going to do? Not use us? You don't think they're capable of doing something like that? Of course. Or if something doesn't work, or the internet's busted, it's just too much. I like Resolve because once I have it, it's mine, and they give you free updates, and it's a piece of free software, and all of that kind of good stuff. So I personally like Resolve a lot more than Premiere for those reasons. If you like Premiere, Premiere is very powerful. But don't forget, for the things that you're going to get in Resolve, you then got to get After Effects. And you also got to get the package. And all of a sudden, that $20 a month turns into $100 a month. So you better start making some serious bank with that. So for new people starting up, if you don't use Resolve, I think you're foolish because, again, look at the ROI.
Gotcha.
Free is a really good ROI.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of wanted to finish it off, I guess, with, I'm curious because you started Indie Film Hustle, and it's meant for creators like us and tons of other people. Indie filmmakers, you seem to be pretty passionate about us not being taken advantage of and learning skills in this world that's changing so much. I'd really like to get your heart a little bit about the message that what makes you want to do Indie Film Hustle? What got you started, and why are you so passionate about teaching other people and giving resources for people like us?
Well, I'm not sure if you know about my first book. Do you know about Shooting for the Mob?
I heard your story
That you told.
Yeah, right. So my first book, Shooting for the Mob, this is my origin story.
Mm-hmm.
This is the origin story of how I got into this business.
which is a crazy story, by the way.
Which is it's about how I almost made a $20 million film for the mafia. And then I was in a year where my life was being threatened on a daily basis. I was 26 when that started. And then if that wasn't insane enough, I actually got flown out to LA where I met the biggest movie stars in the world, the biggest producers in the world, because they took this guy, this mobster seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in the room, like I have a whole chapter dedicated to Batman. Like I actually went to Batman's house, one of the actors who played Batman.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there talking to Batman about being in my movie. And that experience really beat me up a lot. I mean, it was devastating to me. It took me a few years before I could even shoot again after that. As you can imagine, being that close to your dream and it being just yanked away from you. It was devastating. So between that experience and then being in a post-production suite for decades and talking to hundreds of filmmakers during that process, being in a room with filmmakers for 8 or 10 hours a day, talking to them about their experiences, about being taken advantage of by distributors, being taken advantage of by producers, things that happen on set, and then add in all of my own personal experience of just walking in this business as a director, a producer, and seeing all the craziness that I've seen. I was just tired of filmmakers being taken advantage of and being just chewed up and spit out by this business. So because of that, I looked at the landscape when I was about to start Indie Film Hustle. I looked around and I didn't see anybody really who had any sort of street credibility, who's actually, battle hardened. There's a lot of, younger guys or people who want to get into the business or other things like that. But I didn't see anybody really telling the truth. Not because they were lying. It's just that they just didn't have the experience to tell the truth. So I was like, you know what? Let me throw my hat in the ring and let me see what I can provide, what kind of value I can provide to this audience. And I started just telling the truth as raw as I am in this interview. You can imagine how raw I've been throughout the time I've been doing Indie Film Hustle. Yeah. I'm brutally honest because I'd rather you hear the brutal honesty from me than from the business, because the business is not going to be nearly as nice as me.
Yeah.
So I'd rather you hear the truth coming from me, and then you can prepare yourself for it. I'm not trying to scare you out of the business. I'm trying to prepare you for the battle that you're walking into. And and a lot of times there's a buzzsaw that you're walking into. So you need to arm yourself and prepare yourself properly to walk in. Because I know you're crazy because you're a filmmaker. We're all nuts.
Yeah.
We're nuts as a general statement. We're crazy. We're artists. We're crazy. We're crazy individuals. So I know you're still going to go, but I just want you to be better prepared. Yeah. Like, I know you're like, look, you're going to get punched. You're going to get punched. You're going to get punched. Look, there's a fist. There's a fist. I know you're going to walk right into that punch. there's no question you're going to do it, because I've done it and I continue to do it. I still did it like a couple weeks ago. I'm like, I can't believe I got punched again.
Yeah, because you're like, well, maybe it's different this time.
Yeah, it's always that maybe. And it's everybody, no matter how old or battle-hardened you might be, you always have that kind of back thing in your head. So I just want you to be prepared to take the punch and then keep going forward.
Yeah.
Like Rocky said, life is about getting hit and getting knocked down, but getting hit as hard as you can and keep moving forward. That is about what life is, and that is definitely what this business is. You got to keep moving forward. So with Indie Film Hustle, I wanted to create this resource that was, the only beacon of truth out there. And I feel that I'm not the only one, but I'm definitely one of the larger ones because I'm a loudmouth and I try to get and I market like crazy. So I want to get the information out to as many people as possible. And there's people who disagree with me. There's people, I've had arguments about filmtrepreneur with filmmakers. They're like, well, I don't want to open up a business. I'm like, well, then you're going to die. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're not going to make it. In my opinion, you're not going to make it. Or if you're going to go down this path, that's fine. Go down that path, but just understand what you're walking into. If you think making a short film is going to get you noticed by a big producer who's going to hire you to direct a television show so you can get into the DGA, so the DGA can pay your medical, and then you get residuals, and then get into a studio situation where you make a first feature, and then all of a sudden, fast forward 5 years, and you're at the Marvel red carpet for the new Marvel movie you directed. That's a route you could try to walk. And God bless you, man. And there are people who walk that path, but there's very few that make it. I'm trying to prepare you for a business, and there's nothing that says that I've stopped trying to go down that path. I've just taken a different path around it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make my own. I'm going to do the Tyler Perry thing, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to build my own world. I'm going to build my own revenue. I'm going to build my own business, and they're going to start coming to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what has honestly started to happen little by little.
Yeah.
Because of what I've been able to build out, I'm starting to get reached out by people. They're like, well, who's this guy?
Yeah.
And look at all the stuff he's doing and what's going on there. And that's the path I want to go, because either way, I'm going to get to the same place. But one way is really painful, really hard, really a lot of hard knocks that you're going to take along the way. You're going to be hungry. You're going to be angry. You're going to be bitter. Because trust me, I walked that path for 20 years.
Yeah.
I walked that path.
Yeah.
Then the second I decided to take control of my own destiny and started to take control and stopped asking for permission to do stuff and begging for people to get invited to a party, I decided to make my own party.
Yeah.
And make it really cool and invite a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
And now I'm still going to the same place, but I'm doing it on my terms, and I'm being fed along the way, and I'm eating, and I'm not only taking care of myself and my family, but I'm providing a value to other people. I'm helping other people on their path. And that is one of the biggest things I do, is being of service to my community, to my tribe. And that's what I try to do every day when I wake up in the morning, is to like, okay, how can I be of value to my audience? How can I be of value to people who are listening to my podcast, watching my YouTube videos, reading my books? How can I be of value? And I lead with that. Money comes. Money will come after that. But it's about being of service, being of value. As that famous saying is, if you want your dream to come true, help somebody else with theirs.
Mm-hmm.
That is the motto I live by, because, and so many other people think of, oh, you're my competitor, and I'm not going to help you because if you go up and leave me behind, like all this kind of scarcity mentality is what's going to drop. You got the whole crab in the bucket mentality. And trust me, I was an angry and bitter filmmaker. Like, I was angry. You think it would? Let me tell you this. I'm here. I'm 30 something years old in my suite. Then all of a sudden, a 22-year-old walks in who just directed his first $3 million movie with some major stars involved. And he sits in the room and he doesn't know a goddamn thing about filmmaking.
Yeah.
And he's arrogant and he's clueless, and I don't even know how the hell he got the money. And he tells me a story, and you don't think I'm pissed off about that? When I at that stage in my career, I'm like, I've been busting my ass. Why hasn't anyone given me that money? All that kind of stuff. That toxic mentality is what was holding me back. But the moment that I said, you know what? Good for you, brother. I'm glad. I'll help you however I can, doing my post and get your and getting your vision on the screen. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
But when I started to switch of being a mind of service, regardless of what comes out afterwards, like, you know, for me, I'm just giving service all the time. I'm being valuable all the time with all of my platforms and all my options and things that I do. So that's easy for me. But when someone calls or someone, hey, can you do me this favor? Can you do me that favor? Hey, can you do this? I try. It's hard now because I get bombarded now. But I try to be as service driven as humanly possible within the means that I can. And look, I'm on your show right now, right?
Yes.
I don't know what's going to come out of this. I truly am on this show to be of value to you guys and the people who listen to you.
Which you are. Huge value.
By the way, and I don't care if it's one person or 1 million people.
Yeah.
I don't look at it that way. If I've got the time, if I can be of value to you and to your audience, great. That's the way I look at things. I can't like, oh, these guys, how many followers do they got? I don't know.
Which is super low.
Right, exactly. Like, I don't know if these guys even know what, oh man, should I waste my time? No, I don't look at things like that. I try not to. And I can't make everyone happy. But if I see something there and I saw what you guys were doing, I see the passion behind what you're doing, I'm like, you know what? I absolutely want to come on. Not that I'm any big stuff or anything like that, but at least I can help you in whatever way I possibly can of being of service. And That's the key, leading with being of service to people and helping people along the way. And I promise you, if you work for free on a production, you might get abused. I promise you, you probably will get abused here or there. Not like, sexually or anything like that. Hopefully not. But
Yeah.
they're going to abuse you. They're going to take advantage of you. They're going to be like, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? And you're going to be so young and energetic that you're going to go, yes, sir, I'll do that. Well, that's the kind of attitude that is going to move you forward in the business. And you're going to eat some crow. And, I worked for free for, God, almost a year between school and out for free. I lived at home, so it was great. I worked for free. I would show up every day till finally my boss quit. And the owners of that company said, who are we going to get to replace this guy at the vault? He was the vault manager. Yeah. So he was involved like editing commercial reels and stuff and taking care of the Apple Talk system. That was before Wi-Fi. And who's going to help manage all our Macs? And I'm like, well, this kid's been here every day for the last 3 months. Let's offer it to them. And I got offered $23,500 a year. To do that. It was my first job, my first official job in the business.
Yeah.
And I was so excited. I can't even tell you. And by the way, that was an hour commute there, hour commute back home every day. Every day. And I was happy to do it. And 9 months later, I quit and started freelancing because I'm a psychopath. So I quit and I quit the job and I was like, I'm going to go off as a freelance editor. And then that's when I started making really insane money. As a young man, but it was about the hustle. It's about moving forward. It's about doing all that stuff. So you don't know what being of service is going to do for you now or in the future. I don't know if in 10 years, and by the way, this has happened, in 10 years, you might be the next James Gunn. You might be the next Christopher Nolan down the road. And our paths might cross again. And you'll go, dude, man, I want to thank you for being on my show that one day, man. It really helped me out a lot. Yeah. What can I do to help you? And I'm not looking at it that way. I'm just saying that, and by the way, that has happened to me multiple times where I just had a guest. I'm not kidding you. I had a guest on where I interviewed yesterday. And he's like, dude, I remember your DVD in 2005, man. It helped me out a lot. I was on your mailing list. I'm like, what? He's like, and he's a CEO of a big company now. Yeah. He goes, yeah, dude, I watched your thing, dude. You were like the shit back then, man. I appreciate what you did. I'm like, oh my God, it happens all the time to me. So you never know. So I just plant seeds everywhere. And if something blooms afterwards, great. And if it doesn't, that's fine too. If I've helped you out in your journey, we never see each other again, fantastic. It's all good. And that's how you have to look at things, man. You can't look at like, what am I going to get out of this? You're done.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've definitely helped us. And if you never see me again, I'll definitely be seeing you in your videos for sure. Cause you got stuff I want to listen to. But we've gone a little bit over the allotted time that I didn't want to take any more of your time, sir. So
it's all good.
We'll wrap it up there, but we're really appreciative you come on here and it means a whole lot. So thank you.
And I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. And if anybody wants, anyone listening wants to check out my book, you can go to indiefilmhustle.com. There's links everywhere. That's the best way to get a hold of me is indiefilmhustle.com, but I'm not hard to find.
Yeah. Beautiful website, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, man.
So, how do you think the episode went?
It went great.
Yeah.
It went awesome. He had so much to say, and I didn't want to interrupt him hardly at all. I just wanted to sit there and just listen because he was giving so much great information.
We did have planned out interview questions.
We didn't get to all of them.
We didn't get to hardly any
We hit
of them.
an hour before we got to all the questions, which is good. I mean, he gave so much more information than I thought. I mean, I kind of got the vibe watching his videos that he does know the information that needs to be said, and so he's going to go, and he's probably said this in other ways on his videos, but he likes to go down and make sure he explains the reasons why he believes what he is and the advice that he gives and information that he has. And so, gosh, just listening and just absorbing as much as possible.
Yeah.
And this guy, he knows a lot. He's been working in the film industry and has worked with a lot of big name people. And it's awesome that he was
something that I found interesting that he did not bring up on this episode. I found out with research before this episode was how he started off and why he fell in love with filmmaking.
Okay.
Or films in general.
I think you hinted at it.
I hinted at it because I was scooting towards a question, but he didn't actually talk about this, is he started off working in a video store, a mom and pop video store, and he just bought films, VHS tape films, because it was back in the day, and he just collected these VHS films because he loved them so much. And that's interesting, because that's something that I would like agree with, not VHS, because I'm not that he was old, but like I'm younger than him, so DVDs and Blu-rays, but I love collecting those. We've talked about this.
Yeah, you like hard copies even though they're kind of going obsolete. As he said, the industry's changing, and so even if you don't want to, you got to change with it, otherwise you won't.
I mean, and
won't stick around.
Yeah, and I agree.
But you can have a personal hobby of collection if you want to.
Yeah.
But, you can't really bank on hard copy sales these days, really.
That is true. But that's interesting, and it's a little bit of that backstory patina that we like to talk about, that I'm interested in.
This guy's a younger old man patina. He's not an old man. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just saying he's on his way to having the ultimate patina in the filmmaking world.
Yeah. So I guess that was pretty good.
Oh yeah. Yeah, very good stuff. I was interested to see. I kind of figured what he was going to say about film school. I expected what he was going to say because I've kind of heard him talk about it. But the thing was, there was actually two things that stuck out a lot. The one was the return on investment that he kept bringing up, which is very true. That's so important with any college, to be like, okay, what's the return on investment? Do I invest in myself to go to college and spend all this money because college is so expensive? That was really good that he covered that, and that's something that everyone should pay attention to. The other thing was towards the end when he said, in his own words, he basically said, invest in people and help them pursue their dreams.
And that's
and
also
then
something
by proxy,
we've talked about it on this podcast and on this channel.
Which is crazy to hear him say that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I think we're in the right mindset then. You know what I mean? It's pretty affirming to be like, okay, we're kind of on the right track because we have the right perspective that even he's suggesting.
I know he hinted at this with one of his books that he has out, and you can go buy those books or read them if you want. But I think we should link down in the comments or in the description the film you sent me when you first told me about this guy, his story, his backstory of when he was in his 20s.
We're going to put his website link in the description and the video.
And that video.
Of him working for the mob.
So you should go watch those and maybe even get his books. That'd be educational.
I'm thinking about getting that filmpreneur. How did he say it?
Film
entrepreneur. Filmtrepreneur.
Yeah.
Filmtrepreneur. I want to get that book and read it because he sold it pretty well. I mean, he started talking about things, but he teased us a little. Mm-hmm. Did you see that? He did tease us a little by giving us a little bit of information. Then he's like, all right.
Yeah. He definitely knows what he's talking about. And
he's good at marketing.
Yeah. He was doing us a favor. I agree. But he also was promoting his stuff on our channel a little bit.
It's not
that's fine.
It's not a big deal for him to produce. Honestly, me and you might be his selling point. More than the audience. I don't know. Maybe we got some filmmakers in the audience. Who knows? Yeah.
So that was the episode. We're also on Spotify. Are we ending it?
Yeah. We can end it.
So we're on Spotify. Go find us on Spotify. We have an episode called, on Spotify.
We got a show called The Midnight Special.
Yes, that's
it's separate from this one. It's audio only, exclusive on Spotify.
Yes.
Friday nights at 10 p.m.
We also have a website, Wiseworks ENT. We don't talk about that a lot, but we got some stuff.
I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to talk about Wiseworks ENT because I wanted to change I didn't want it to.
Okay.
We accidentally called it ENT before we knew that stand for ear, nose, throat.
We have that Wiseworks ear, nose, throat channel website.
Which we'll plug it more once we nail down. I'm thinking maybe, I don't want to say it because someone might go and try to snatch it up.
So that is the podcast.
Thank you for watching
this one. And that was a fun time. So have a good night and
subscribe to the channel.
And we
go
are
check out Alex Ferrari stuff.
We're here to make geeks out of you.
geeks, not nerds. Crazy crack dads.
Have you heard about Pluto?
Why are you doing that? End of every episode.